Hello, good afternoon. It's my pleasure to welcome to the Embassy of Mexico. Today we have the Mexican Day taking place during the Berlin Science Week. We are very glad to have you here with us and the people who are following us in YouTube. To start this event, first of all, I will make an announcement, a safety announcement. This embassy has 3 emergency exits. One is located in front of the building. The second one is located in the back, and the third one is located in the left side. To start with this event, it's my pleasure to give the floor to the Ambassador Francisco Quiroga, who will give us a welcome remarks.
Thank you, Laura. Welcome, everyone. I want to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Nerida Abarca, Dr. Luis Rodolfo Paniagua Boirol, Dr. Germán Versali, Dr. Mario de Leo Winkler, Director for Knowledge Communication at the Universidad Autónoma Metropolitana, Mrs. Jill Theorin, responsible for Mexico in the Federal Ministry of Education and Research, distinguished guests and friends of Mexico. I am delighted to welcome you to the 7th edition of the Mexican Science Day, which takes place here at the Embassy of Mexico in the frame of the Berlin Science Week. We are very proud to host this event with the aim to have an interdisciplinary dialogue with Mexican outstanding researchers. The growing presence of German companies in Mexico and the wide educational offer in Germany have notably increased the interest among Mexican students in looking for academic and research opportunities in this country. Due to the efforts of German and Mexican talented scientists, researchers, and students, many projects have been successfully carried in several fields of knowledge according to the challenges and priorities that our countries need to address. Mexico is currently experiencing an unprecedented moment. Since the 1st of October, Dr. Claudia Sheinbaum became the first female president of Mexico, also the first STEM professional becoming president. She's the first scientist whatsoever, male or female, to lead a country, not only in Mexico, but in Latin America. President Sheinbaum is giving an important role to Mexico's scientific development. 7 of the 21 ministers in her cabinet hold degrees on sciences. As well, she established a new Ministry of Science, Humanities, Technology, and Innovation. President Sheinbaum has pointed out that science is at the core of the transformation of society. So scientific development and public policy should work jointly to provide solutions to the needs of Mexican society. Some of the key projects of the government of Claudia Sheinbaum are the creation of the Digital Agency for Public Innovation and Zero Waste for the use of solid waste, among many others. Another element of scientific policy will be designing strategies and public policies that bring scientific research closer to the productive sector, as well as promoting its participation in the financing of research and development. True competitiveness comes from innovation. In a scenario with positive prospects for science in Mexico and with a very active exchange among research institutions of both countries, Mexican Science Day takes a place today as an opportunity to present successful projects and finding possible topics of future collaboration. This year, Mexican Science Day focuses on innovative agendas of Mexican-German scientific cooperation. The Mexican experts participating on this event will present their experience on topics such as climate policy, plant psychology, and molecular taxonomy. I really appreciate the interest, the effort, the outreach of our guests in sharing with us their knowledge. Scientific cooperation has never been more important to face current global challenges. Therefore, it is a very good opportunity to hear today from distinguished researchers how their respective work and research advances contribute to the innovative bilateral cooperation agenda. The cooperation that this forum seeks to foster is not only fundamental for life in society, but also to promote scientific and social development in a sustainable and equitable manner. I thank you all for coming and wish you all an interesting and productive afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. As the Ambassador mentioned, the cooperation in science, technology, and innovation between Germany and Mexico has been one of the components of the bilateral relationship during the last 40 years. Several cooperation projects between research institutions and science from both countries have built up important bridges of knowledge, understanding, and expertise. So this event, we want to make through this event two main approaches. The first one is to show the work and the projects that they are developed by Mexican and Latin American researchers in German institutions, so that we could appreciate their job and the relevance of that job in facing current challenges that the world is facing. And the second one that we want to point out is the human element. So these researchers that they will be presenting today, they have a human aspect. They have a huge experience of how it is to research and work in German institutions and in another country, how to adapt to other way of working. So we think that is also very important, that people could see not the researchers, not only like researchers far away in the lab doing their job, so the human part of the job that they are making every day. So in order to start this program, I want to introduce, first of all, Héctor Rodríguez Chávez, who will have an intervention on a video. Héctor Rodríguez Chávez is a researcher project manager at Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research. He works in the Urban Transformation Working Group. He previously collaborated with the Research Institute for Sustainability, and he coordinates the scientific aspects of the European Union City Calculator project and helps cities to develop and implement climate-friendly measures. He leads the activities of the Potsdam Institute for Climate in the European Union Dialogue project. So we will see the video.
Dear colleagues and guests at the Mexican Embassy in Berlin, unfortunately, I cannot be there today in person with you, but I'm honored to share this short video presentation about the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research and our work regarding climate and energy policy. I would like to express my gratitude to the Mexican Embassy for organizing this event and the efforts to enhance the scientific cooperation between Mexico and Latin America with Germany and Europe. At PEAK, founded in 1992, we have grown into a powerhouse of climate science, today supporting a team of more than 400 employees and scientists. The Institute is divided in 4 research departments, me being part of RD2 Climate Resilience. We are also proud to be part of the prestigious Leibniz Association, a network that connects 96 independent interdisciplinary research institutions. At PEAK, our mission is to advance the scientific frontier on interdisciplinary climate impact research for global sustainability and to contribute knowledge and solutions for a safe and just climate future. We focus on global commons, natural resources such as the atmosphere, lands, oceans, forests, whose sustainable use and provision require of a global cooperation. A key concept in our work is that of planetary boundaries. These are 9 biophysical boundaries of the Earth system that make a safe operating space for humanity. Understanding and respecting these boundaries is crucial for our planet's future. Our main toolbox at PEAK consists of sophisticated models and interdisciplinary research. These models describe natural or socioeconomic systems, projects, past, present, and future scenarios, and transformation pathways, and to inform of critical decisions. One crucial shock that our research has revealed is the concept of a point of no return. Our studies indicate that warming of 4 degrees above pre-industrial levels could lead to irreversible melting in Antarctica. equivalent to more than 6 meters of sea level rise. This, among many other climate research in different fields, demonstrate the urgency of our work and further collaboration. In my recent work, I have had the privilege of co-coordinating the scientific activity of two projects funded by the European Union. These are the Dialogues and the EU City Calculator projects, both concluded recently this year. The Dialogues projects focused on making the energy sector more inclusive and enhancing citizen participation. We explore innovative ways to involve communities in energy-related decision-making processes, recognizing that the transition to sustainable energy systems require not just technological solutions, but also social acceptance and active engagement from citizens. Our work has provided valuable insights into how to create more democratic and participatory approaches to energy policy. The EU City Calculator project addressed a critical need for small and medium-sized cities that often lack the resources and capacities to effectively plan their climate actions. We developed a sophisticated, user-friendly climate tool that support these cities in calculating different pathways to achieve their climate goals. This tool allows city planners and policymakers to model various policy interventions with different levels of implementation, helping them make informed decisions about their climate strategies. What is particularly exciting about these projects today is their potential for application beyond Europe, especially in Latin America. Latin America faces even more challenges of limited resources and technical capacities when it comes to climate action. The knowledge, methodologies, and tools we have developed in both projects can and should be adapted and implemented in Latin American countries. While our recent EU-funded projects have been primarily focused on European context, my collaboration with Latin America has deep roots. One of the most impactful projects I have been involved with was concluded in 2022 with the Co-Benefits project, with the collaboration of the Research Institute for Sustainability and the GIZ. This project is a part of IKI, funded by the Minister of Environment of Germany. Our work spanned 6 countries where we conducted comprehensive studies looking into the social and economic co-benefits of renewable energy adoption. And here, let me share to you one of our key findings. In our analysis of employment opportunities and capacity development through renewable energy, we projected the potential for both direct and indirect job creation under 2 different scenarios of renewable energy deployment in Mexico. These projections offer valuable insights for policymakers and industry leaders alike. In our model, we also calculated the future demand of employment and the potential transfer of employment from fossil fuels to renewables. In our study on saving costs by implementing energy efficiency and deploying renewables in public schools and hospitals, we showed that Mexico could achieve annual savings of approximately $371 million and reduce carbon dioxide emissions by 1 million tons of emissions each year. This, of course, in our more ambitious scenarios. We are glad to note that these findings were crucial for an investment program of Mexico City government in partnership with the GIZ for implementing energy efficiency measures and solar panels installations in public schools, a program developed while the now President Dr. Sheinbaum was the governor of Mexico City. While our data is from 2020 and 2021 in all our studies in Mexico, its relevance persists due to the lack of renewable deployment in the last years in the country. However, we stand in a potential inflection point. With the recent election of a new president and the introduction of a greener energy plan, there is optimism within the scientific community. We are hopeful about the prospects for the green energy transition that Mexico urgently needs. As we look forward to the future, I want to extend the invitation to all of you. I encourage you to reach out, to network, and to explore opportunities for joint projects. Thank you.
So as we could appreciate it in the video, the research that is carried out by Hector Rodriguez is linked it builds a bridge with public policy and with through the cooperation. So it's a very relevant job that he does regarding energy sector. That is one of the main challenges that we are facing nowadays in Mexico. So to continue with the program, I invite Dr. German Bersali. Dr. German Bersali is researcher in energy transition and public policies group at the Research Institute for Sustainability in Helmholtz Centre in Potsdam. Since 2023, he has been the scientific lead of the project measuring progress in the energy transition from systemic change perspective. His research studies the dynamic insertion of ecological economics, political science, and transition studies, with a central focus on policies that drive transformative change towards the zero-carbon economic system. He holds a PhD in economics from the University of Grenoble-Alpes in France, and he also has taught at the university, among others, on renewable energy and sustainability, and climate policy in the Global South. In addition to his academic work, he has advised governments and international non-governmental organizations on issues of economic development, energy, and climate policy. So, please.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and thank you very much for being here today. So my presentation will be complementary to the one that Hector provides, because the time is quite limited. I will focus in two main points. First, I will provide an overview of the main topics on climate and energy policy that we developed at RIF, the Research Institute for Sustainability. And in the second part, I will make a point regarding the status of the energy transition in Mexico and the main challenges and opportunities. So RIF is a much smaller research institute in comparison with PIC, for example, is a institute based on social science. There are political scientists, sociologists, psychologists, some economists, etc. We focus in sustainability transformations in different sectors, including energy, mobility, and industrial production, focusing on the socio-economic, political, and institutional aspects. Here on the right, we have the three main research groups that actually are involved, are working in these topics at the institutes. And I would provide some examples of the research that have been performed in this research group or regarding the question of energy and climate. One of them is the one that Hector just mentioned, is the question of the co-benefit. So the energy transition is absolutely crucial from a climate perspective. We need to arrive to an energy system that is zero emissions or is carbon neutral as soon as possible. But also the energy transition has further implications, social, economic, political, with co-benefits in some cases, but also challenges in many others. So how can we evaluate that? How can we identify them? There is this big project that involves Mexico and finished in 2022 that Hector just mentioned. And then another important aspect, very related, is the question of energy justice, in which we have also research working on it, energy justice from a global north, global south perspective, but also inside each country or even region. So who is going to take the benefits of the energy transition, and who are the groups of the actors that can maybe negatively impact it, and how can we identify these impacts and mitigate them. The second topic area is the question of policies. So policy instruments, policy strategies in order to shape and speed up the transition. So government have a set of different instruments that can be applied, and using different methods, we try to evaluate these effects. For example, in this case, feed-in tariff, or some specific aspect of carbon pricing. In other articles, like the one showing here, we compare a set of instruments in a panel of countries in Latin America in order to understand which instruments are working and why. More recently, I have been working on developing a new evaluation framework that was done, a new evaluation framework in order to measure progress in sectoral transitions from a systemic perspective. It is, how can we know if a specific sector in a specific country, let's say electricity in Mexico or transportation in Mexico, is on track to become a zero emission system by 2050 or before. We cannot just use simple indicators like CO2 emissions, because that is a laggard indicators. We need measures and metrics that show how the system is transforming. That is what try to do with in collaboration with the Bertelsmann Foundation and other actors. The third topic that I wanted to show as some examples of research is the question of the geopolitical aspect of the energy transition, the external shocks, and they interlink with sustainability. For example, in this case, some colleagues analyze the question of what happens if, in this case, Mexico increase investment in these two alternative technologies here, natural gas power versus concentrated solar power. That has implications in terms of energy security. It may create new dependence on some specific countries or company, and all that can be evaluated. There is also the question of hydrogen. Hydrogen in general, and particularly green hydrogen, is now a critical element for decarbonization of several sectors, is critical in European plants, and there are possibilities here with positive and negative aspect to go further with partners in Latin America. There is also the question of economic crisis as an external shock. Economic crisis can be or can represent a critical juncture for climate and energy policy, and also can create economic disruption, meaning affecting some sectors that are more carbon intensive, while enabling the development of other sectors, at least theoretically. And we try to evaluate to which extent recent crises like the COVID crisis or the energy crisis related with the war in Ukraine are changing policies in some specific countries. Last but not least, there is the question of the critical materials, the critical raw materials that are necessary for the energy transition. We know that the energy transition demands a higher amount of many materials and critical minerals. And these minerals, in many cases or in most cases, are produced in countries in the global south, including countries in Latin America. And there are very, very substantial sustainability dimension on the production, but also there are geopolitical elements to analyze in the term of where the value added is created and who will take advantage of them. Now, in the second part, just to have a very, very brief overview of the energy transition in Mexico in the last, let's say, 20 years. The short answer, the short picture is the energy transition has advanced very, very, very slow, unfortunately. we see that the main, so fossil fuels, we can use different indicators, but here we have the evolution of total energy supply in Mexico. We see that oil and particularly natural gas are largely dominant. That implies that CO2 emissions from fossil fuel combustion did not decrease, even increase a little bit. And this, let's say, looking in fossil fuels can be verified for all relevant sectors. Here we have the question of electricity, where in the last 20 years there was a boom of natural gas generation, renewable energies advanced, but very, very, very slow. So now we have, now we have a situation where if we consider the three fossil fuel sources, so coal, oil, and natural gas, they represent around 75% of the electricity mix. In a country that has very, very huge potential for renewables. This lock-in in fossil fuel is not only doesn't happen only in Mexico. That's happened in other countries too, but one of the reasons, of course, is historical and structural reasons because Mexico had been an exporter of oil for many decades, and it is today. But if we take a more, not a short-term, but a longer-term perspective, we can see that this lock-in in fossil fuel, if it's perpetuated, is a big problem for the climate, of course, but also could be an economic problem. If we see the last projections that were analysis that were published by the International Energy Agency last month, we see that in the case of gas, there has been an overinvestment in LNG capacity, liquefied natural gas. And in the case of oil, the driver of increase in oil demand have been China for the last 20 years. But China now is rapidly switching to an electrification of the economy. This year, if we take the transportation sector, the electric vehicles represent more than 50% of total sales, so much higher than here in Germany or in most of countries. That will have a big impact regarding oil demand in the coming years and decades, and consequently also in countries that continues in a lock-in in these sectors. But there are also opportunities because there is a fast increase in demand for clean electricity sources and also oil-related technologies that invite us rethink, redefine the role of Mexico and also the Latin America in general in the new carbon-free economy. That this low or zero carbon economy doesn't exist. Yes, it exists, but it's just in an emerging phase, and it's now where these sectors are being created and countries need to take positions there. Just also Hector mentioned now, it's not an official target, but now the new government in Mexico just propose a target of 45% of renewable electricity by 2030, with good news if it's confirmed. That could be feasible, but of course it requires much more than just investing in wind and solar. It requires a change in the system, investing in electricity transmission, distribution, storage, adapting regulation is the system altogether that needs to change. And finally, there are many sectors that are very, very relevant regarding collaborations between Germany and Mexico, or more generally EU and Latin America. And one of them that I wanted to highlight today is the question of the decarbonization of very carbon intensive or energy intensive sectors. industries like the steel and aluminum. And that is very related with a new pack of policies applied by Europe. Maybe you are familiar with is the CBAM policy, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. It's a little bit technical. We can speak later if you are interested. But that will create a tax to all the export of products that are that have a high content of carbon. And that is a risk, but also an opportunity to decarbonize these sectors. We have a project proposal in that sense, also with Hector and with colleagues in Monterrey and Rio de Janeiro and here in Germany. We are waiting, it's not confirmed, but it's one of the sectors that we would like to work in the coming years. I will finish here. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm happy to discuss with you about any of these topics, also during the coffee break.
So I'm very happy about this raise of the goal up to the 40%, I think it was.
45.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So for everyone, for the people on the video, I'm very happy that Mexico raises the targets. And that was one example. Are you aware of any other kind of like increases in the goals and in the movements? And how can Mexico take a lead within Latin America?
Sorry,
how can Mexico take a lead within the development in Latin America?
Yes. So now I'm as a researcher, I usually wait until the targets are formalized in a sort of regulation of law. Still, the government is very new, so I think that is still not formalized. But there are very, very good signs in the direction of really advance on the decarbonization. I think Mexico has a very advantage and very many positive points regarding the possibility of fast decarbonization of industrial sectors. Also because it's a big industrial producer together with Brazil. And I think that working together, these two countries, also with the EU, there is a big potential there. And yeah, I think industrial decarbonization through different methods, several methods, and also the advance of renewable energy in the electricity sector, that can be, these technologies are cheap now, are cost competitive, and it's relatively easier now to do that now, as it was 20 years earlier.
Mm-hmm. Hi. And from your personal perspective, how optimistic are you to achieve the 45% in 2030?
Well, it's not easy. It's not easy because, of course, it requires, investment in wind parks, particularly take times. So you have to prepare the auction system, and then there is the time of construction, and so it's very ambitious. Probably 45 is not going to be reached in 2030. But if it advances in that direction and it is reached 2 years later, it's still good. The important is like to take a dynamic movement in this sector that has been abandoned, let's say, in the last years.
So you think the increase would be then exponential, maybe, if it starts now growing?
Yeah, what we know from socio-technical transitions in different sectors in different countries is that they are not linear processes. So sometimes there are a preparation phase that lasts for years, and then it could be a period of acceleration, a rapid acceleration. Maybe it's not exponential growth, but a clear acceleration. I think it can perfectly happen here.
One more question, moving a bit away of your original topic. Volkswagen at the moment in Germany runs into huge crisis because they just have their Nokia moment. They have huge plants in Mexico. Mexico and Germany cooperate a lot in the car industry. How is Mexico prepared for electrifying also transportation in general, public transport and individual transport?
Well, that is a sector that requires a lot of work. Definitely, Latin America is, in general, is lagging behind electrification. If I remember right, the share of electric vehicles in Mexico last year was around 2% only in the new sale of cars, so extremely low. But of course, it's a very important topic for Mexico, also for Brazil, for Argentina. They have car industry there, and they need to adapt and follow these trends of electrification worldwide. Otherwise, these industries could disappear in the coming 5 to 10 years. So it's definitely a sector that needs to be one of the priority.
Hi, sorry for the delay, but I will make a comment. I don't know if you were like lately in Yucatan or in Cancun or in, but we have. I think that to mention the train is an important thing. So we didn't have a train. And yeah, and we have now, it's really good. I used them like 4 times. I was in love with this train. The accommodation is really good, and it's not perfect. Anything is perfect in Mexico, and every else there we are not perfect. But also in Merida, we have. I'm from Merida. In Merida, we have this e-train. So wie eine Tram, but electrical. And that is also a thing that in Merida happened, and I was like, wow.
Yes, and
I don't know if you mentioned that, but yeah, and also trains that are not trains, buses that I think they are from China, because like the Bildschirm you have like Chinese Buchstaben words, and I think they come from China, these buses. But we also have these buses, and they are, I assume, hybrid or electrical. But in Yucatan, we in Merida, and in the south of the country, we had many things, and that's a good thing.
Thanks a lot for your comment. I think, yes, here we didn't have time to focus too much in transport, but of course, the decarbonization of transport is it's about electrification, but it's also about developing alternative means of transportation, as you say, trains, in particularly for the transport of goods and transport of people. And there are some examples that are very good, but we need to replicate that all around the country.
My name is Arturo Flores, and I have a question to the raw materials or critical raw materials you mentioned. It. I was a little bit confused if this comment refers to the generation of electricity materials you need, or the mobility materials you need, or for mobility industry.
Well, these raw materials are, for example, cobalt, lithium, graphite.
These are mobility materials, I guess.
yes, are mainly related for the battery for electric cars,
Yes.
mainly. But also we need, to some extent, this material for batteries in order to storage electricity, particularly in countries where the share of renewables, of variable renewables, is very high. And also we need other sort of materials also for the transmissions lines, and also for the wind turbines. So both sectors demand, but you are right that the higher demand come from the mobility sector.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, and we can continue discussing during the break.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It's obvious that energy sector is one of the sectors which is going through a huge transformation and in very high speed transformation, and that many components have to be together. The research, the cooperation, and the public policy, and everything it needs to combine, and that is a huge challenge that we need to face and to go on. So, and to make another announcement, also in the frame of the bilateral cooperation, the technical cooperation between Mexico and Germany, there is a collaboration related to the transportation, the public transportation. We get some cooperation in order to make public transportation with electrical cars. So we need to work all together, because if we don't work all the actors together to face the challenges, it's going to be very, very complicated to change, to make a big change. And to continue with the program, we make a short change, because I want to introduce Oriana Trejo Alvarez, because she was winner of one of the prizes in the Falling Walls with a very interesting project. She comes from Mexico. She comes from the Universidad Autónoma Metropolitana. And I think she's a lady, scientific, young, and she's promoting a very nice project, which I want that she introduces us the project. So I invite you to come here and share with us your product, and we congratulate you for your prize in Falling Walls.
Well, thank you so much. This is a surprise for us. Yes, we are going to be presenting on Thursday on the Falling Walls engagement. Here is my boss also. We are part of the Directorship of Communication of Knowledge at UAM, at the Metropolitan Autonomous University in Mexico. So for anyone that doesn't know, the university is the fourth largest public university in Mexico. And we have approached more than 30,000 people in 2023. The project that we are going to be talking about, and the project we were winning for, is mostly about school gardens, but also is about inclusion. So in UAM, we had been working with different vulnerable publics, like women in prison, like also immigrants, women, what else? And a lot of teenagers who are mostly into communities in Mexico. One is Iztapalapa, which is one of the most crowded communities in Mexico City, where insecurity and lack of services like access to pure water are problems that students are facing every year. So one of our projects, and the one we are going to present, is a school garden that we had been working with these students. And now we have students who, because of being in this project, are actually going to attend university. So we are really happy about that. And we also have created a series of infographics about how to start and maintain and distribute a school garden, which are going to be published really soon into a book, which we will also be delivering for free to anyone who wants to know a little bit more about this. So this is why we are here. This is what we are doing in Mexico City, and this is what we will be talking about on Thursday. So if you have the chance, you can come to learn a little bit more, or you can approach to us during the coffee break to talk a little bit more. And you can follow us on social media. In Conocimiento UAM, you can read a little bit more about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Oriana. So she has a motto that I like it, and I will give it to you before we go to the coffee break. She believes that science must be accessible, fun, and useful for the society. So I think it's a very nice motto. So I invite you to a short coffee break, 5 minutes coffee break, and to make a group photo in the altar. As you can see, we have the altar, the ofrenda for the Day of the Dead. So we invite you to make a group photo over there. Thank you. to introduce Dr. Luis Rodolfo Paniagua. He is a researcher at the Institute of Plant Physiology and Microbiology of the Freie Universität Berlin. Dr. Luis Rodolfo Paniagua is a researcher with an extensive experience in multiple interdisciplinary fields, such as animal-microbe interactions, microbiology, molecular biology, and immunology. Her expertise ranges from the microbiomes and plant science to plant pathology, horticultural production, and insect pest biocontrol strategies. He is currently leading a project aimed to improve the biological control of insect pests in crops through new bacterial stains, with the ultimate aim of minimizing the use of chemical pesticides. So please welcome.
So the pointer, where is it? Thank you. Thank you. So first, I must say that it is both a pleasure and an honor to be here and to be able to share my work with you. And for this, I would like to thank the Mexican Embassy for building this bridge so that Mexican scientists can share their work with the public. So so today I would like to give you, I would like to share with you an ongoing research that actually started just last year. But first, I would like to give you some context. So I want you to picture a world in which humans have to fight against insects every day in order to protect their food and survive. Now, this might look like the plot from a very low-budget movie, but actually, it's closer to reality than we think. Every year, we lose about 1/3 of all our crops due to pests. And this, in money terms, is about 450 billion euros of crop losses per year. And this is an issue that is only expected to get worse with climate change, because colder areas are getting warmer, and therefore they are more welcoming for insects to now live there and also affect crops there. Now, in the 20th century, in the 1930s, 1940s, we finally thought that we had found a solution against insect pests. And this was with the creation of synthetic insecticides. And we thought that finally they would wipe out all the insect pests from the farms, from the homes. And we even believed that they provided all sorts of different benefits for us, for homes, for our food, and for pets. This is shown here in these ads from the 1940s and 50s. So we believe that they were such a miracle products that could solve so many issues in terms of insect pests. But this dream started to crumble in the 1960s with one of the most important women of the 20th century, that is Rachel Carson. So she actually wrote this book called Silent Spring, and she showed in this book the dark side of chemical insecticides, showing that they actually linger in our ecosystem, they enter into the food chains, and they poison our wildlife and affect human health. And also, we realized that actually many insects develop resistance against these chemical pesticides. So this left us with a question on whether we could find a different way to control insect pests without having so much harm in our ecosystems. And this answer is yes, and this solution has always been present in nature, because nature has its own pest controller. Because if you think about it, every insect in every ecosystem has a natural enemy, whether it is like a different insect, whether it's a bird, whether it's a mammal, or also certain parasites or certain microbes that also can cause diseases in insects. So this concept of nature having natural pest controllers, it is actually not new. More than 1,500 years ago, the ancient Chinese farmers actually knew about this, and they used these natural pest controllers to protect their crops. For instance, it's known that they would place nests of ants close to orange trees so that the ants would then patrol these trees, and then whenever they would find a pest, they would then just kill it. But it was until the late 19th century and 20th century that we started to rediscover this method to control insect pests. And this is a method that we call biocontrol of insect pests. And this is a method that very simply consists on the use of natural enemies to control insect pests. So again, these can be insects, birds, mammal, parasite, but also microbes. Microbes are becoming very important to control insect pests. And when we are talking about these microbes, we are talking about a method that is known as bioinsecticides. Bioinsecticides are products that rely on natural bacteria that can naturally cause diseases in insects and kill them. And they work in the following way. So here, for instance, you have a larvae from a butterfly coming into a to a crop, and then they feed on this crop, and then the farmer applies this product. So this microbe enters into the gut of this larvae, causing damage in the gut of the larvae and finally killing it. Although this method works very well, the problem is that it is still not as fast-acting as many traditional chemical pesticides. So if we could find a way to somehow boost the killing effect of bioinsecticides, we could have a better method to control insect pests in the future without having to use chemical pesticides. That is exactly the question that we ask in the Phylosphere Microbiology group of the FU Berlin, and that is, how can we make bioinsecticides act faster? And for this, we again turn to nature, and we are looking at wild plants, because wild plants are known to harbor many different types of microbes that may protect plants against insects. So basically what we do is that we started this bacteria hunting, so trying to find new microbes that we can employ to boost the killing effect of these natural insecticides. So what we do is that we analyze a big collection of different bacteria that they come from plant surfaces, and then based on certain properties, we then select them and create bacteria cocktails that, when used in combination with the bioinsecticide, they can kill insects faster. We are now testing these cocktails on one of the most important pests in cabbage, which is the cabbage butterfly, Pieris brassicae, and we are testing this in the following way. So we basically grow plants without any microbes. Then we apply these cocktails of different bacteria. Then they will grow on the plant, causing no damage to the plant. And then we apply the pest, which in this case is this larvae of the cabbage butterfly. When they are feeding on this plant, they of course acquire these bacteria, so they enter the gut of the insect. And then, as any farmer would do, then we apply the bioinsecticide. And this actually takes place because it is thanks to those damage caused by the biopesticide that those bacteria present in the cocktails are able to then penetrate the body of the insect, basically causing a systemic infection that kills the insect faster. We have tested this under lab conditions, and we see so far that insects die up to 4 times faster when we use this combination of the cocktail and the bioinsecticide than when using the bioinsecticide alone. But maybe you might be now wondering whether these cocktails are actually safe for us or safe for our ecosystems, and the answer is yes, because all of the bacteria present in these cocktails actually are coming from bacteria that are present in the plants in natural ecosystems. And many of them actually are present in many of our fruits and vegetables, and most importantly, they cause no harm to insects that provide benefit for us, because they only target insects that are going to be chewing on the leaves, and these cocktails only kill the insect when they are combined with the bioinsecticides. So now that we are getting positive results on their lab conditions, we are moving forward to testing if this is a method that we could actually employ under natural farming conditions. So we just got some German funding to do this, and so hopefully in the next months we are gonna get some clear answers on this. But now I want to share my personal vision or what I expect for the future about this. So I expect that such method or such products would provide benefit not only for Germany and Europe, but also for other countries that urgently need to decrease the use of chemical insecticides, such as my home country, Mexico. Because in the last 2 decades, there has been an increase by 60% of the use of chemical pesticides in Mexico. So we are talking about 90,000 tons of pesticides applied in Mexico every year. And this, of course, is causing a lot of different problems, such as the fact that we see that about 30% of the surface water in Mexico, in those areas in which we use these chemicals, you can find them in the water there. Also, it is now clear and very evident that pesticides are the ones to blame for the very strong decline in the numbers of insects, which many of them, of course, include insects that pollinate. And we need this insect not only to pollinate flowers in the natural ecosystems, but also because we need them to pollinate many of our plants that we grow, because many of the fruits that we eat actually depend on different insects to be pollinated and then produce fruits. Finally, of course, there is a big cost in the sense of how much money it takes to actually try to fix this damage to the ecosystem, but also how much it is the damage to human health. So this is about $200 million per year that it is actually spent trying to actually fix these problems. So one important aspect to mention is that actually this here, you see them, these different insects, they are the most important pests in Mexico. And we know that they are susceptible to bioinsecticides, meaning that we can treat them already without chemicals, but many farmers are still not shifting to these products because they still perceive that they are not as fast acting as the typical chemical pesticides. So if we could find a way to boost these products, maybe we could promote that farmers also really shift to using these more natural products in the country. And finally, I just want to say that, of course, this is a work of not only 1 or 2 people, but of many people that have been supporting this project. And first, I want to say thank you to all of them. And I want to thank also all of the different German entities that have supported my career. And I thank you for listening to me.
Have you ever seen any reaction of the, so you have this bacteria, but gracias. So the thing is that whenever you are using a pesticide or whatever other thing, like in this case, your very nice bacteria, what happened with the target? Probably they are also doing a resistance to this bacteria, or a way to avoid this problem in their digestive or in their tissues. What do you, have you seen something?
No, we have not. I mean, I think that to develop resistance, this really take a long time, but I think that eventually insects develop resistance against whatever you are going to use against them. So I think that the answer here is not to use one approach to control insects, but to use like different approach, so that we don't focus on just one approach, because then indeed they can develop a certain resistance, and then we have to jump to the next product. So this is only one method that we can employ to control them, but on top of this, you can also use other different enemies in the field, for instance, and try to control from different fronts. so that you prevent this pressure to develop resistance in the insects. But indeed, there is always a risk. This is not something that will always be working. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting idea. But is it just a research project, or you have commercial products like bacteria for farmers?
It started as a research project, but actually, because we don't have the resources to make it, or like at some point to produce it in a massive way, of course, we are also looking for partners that would like to also support this project and then to develop into a certain product.
So nothing on the market yet. Yeah.
Sorry?
Nothing at the market yet. Yeah.
It is not now in the market. It's not as a product right now. So we are now just like in the lab phase, and then test on their conditions in the greenhouse and see if it has potential for it. And then after that, then we can proceed and see who wants to partner up with us.
Thank you. Very nice presentation. I have a question. Have you talked to Monsanto already?
No, I haven't.
I'm just joking. What happened with the rest of the liquid that falls into the floor? I mean, is this bacteria dying at some point if they don't have any plants around, or what happened to this rest?
These bacteria are bacteria that are growing on the leaves. Some of them can grow in the soil, but these are bacteria that are extracted already from the natural ecosystem. So this is not, so if they fall into the floor or something like that, it's not that we are going to introduce new microbes into the ecosystem. So for instance, now we are working with cabbage, and we are employing bacteria that we know that are bacteria that can colonize leaves of cabbage. It's just that we combine them in a certain way and certain bacterial type that they work in this way. But we do not expect a problem because we are not introducing any external microorganism into the ecosystem.
Okay, because as far as I know, in the soil, there's also a lot of bacteria, right?
There's a lot
of
of
microbes.
yes.
So my question will be if you are messing with them or also killing them, or affecting them in some way.
I would not expect that because the amount of bacteria that you find in the soil is many times higher than the one that you find on the leaves living. So whatever is coming into the soil is going to be outcompete if something is more present in the soil. So, but that is a very good question indeed. This is, of course, in the step in which we move towards testing it in the field, for instance, this is something that needs to be also definitely tested.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi. If we say that everything goes really good for you and you have the phones and you have like this product, have you thought about how would you like buy it to the countries or to the governments? Like, because I would say the governments should be like a support, like not a sponsor, but they should like with a campaign. They should say the obreros, the people, let's do it with this product, or like if you don't do it like that, I wouldn't say that the obreros for himself or for herself would say like, okay, I would be a good human being, or maybe we are like getting better like as society, but have you thought about like how would you that yeah, do you understand what I mean?
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
So yeah, no, I really like that question because I think it's very complex why farmers are not shifting to this. So one aspect is, okay, we can create a product that works just as fine as chemical pesticide, but there are many social factors that can influence whether a farmer would shift, like cost, for instance, how easy it is to get, how easy it is to apply, whether my neighbors are actually gonna do it or not, because if I do it, but then the neighbor applies chemical pesticide, you can also have like a problem there. So it's a way more complex issue that involves other social aspects that, of course, that's not my area, but if this works well, I think definitely needs to be supported, or we need to partner up with people that really can address and make a study on what is needed in Mexico for more farmers to adopt this. So I don't believe that farmers are not trying to be good people or are selfish. It's just that they do the best with the money that they can that they have, and with that they have to make money for their living. So I think it's a very complex issue how to bring this into the fields, and that of course will take time. Yeah.
Or maybe we use the strategy of Monsanto, but with the government of Mexico. No, you pay for the product, this good product that you if you use that, you receive a commission, or we give you this product, and for, I don't know, like some kind of marketing strategy that the government uses, damit die Farmers benötigen das, ne? Also use das.
Yeah, so to have some sort of incentives for
Yeah.
I mean, now you do have certain incentives, because if you, for instance, you want to export your fruits, for instance, then you have to achieve a quality, and then you also have to go to certain tests and limits of chemicals that you are using on the field. So definitely the government could play a role there in either be more strict in this, but also at the same time not affecting the farmer by being just, by placing just a rule, but checking whether it's possible and how we are going to help the farmer to make this transition. Thank you.
Thank you for such an interesting presentation. It has been very interesting for me as well. And I think also one of the challenges, as it has been mentioned, is going to be to change the mind of the people who works in the agriculture, and to make a huge change on the way of thinking, and connected to the public policy as well. Now we're going to the last presentation of today. So we go to the segment of molecular taxonomy. So for this, I invite Nelida Barca. She is researcher at the Diatomesos Research Group at the Berlin Botanical Garden and Botanical Museum. She has a diploma in biology at the Universidad Michoacana de San Nicolás Hidalgo, Mexico, and a master's degree in management and conservation of natural resources at the Universidad Michoacana de San Nicolás de Hidalgo, Mexico. Since 2010, she is postdoc researcher at the Botanical Garden and Botanical Museum, and since 2019, she is also curator of the Algae Herbarium with a focus in diatoms. So please.
Thank you very much. Oh, thank you for the introduction. I also want to thank Professor Rojo, who is here, and Mrs. Garcia and Mr. Fontenbaja for the organization. It's a pleasure to be here, because it's not that often that I get the opportunity to talk in a multidisciplinary context, and give me the opportunity to bring something probably new to the table, something that you probably never heard about or saw before, and that makes exciting for me. But this is not only my work. This is the work. Oh, where is this going? Oh, I'm not pushing anything. I'm just jumping. How can I go back? It's jumping without me, so I hope it stays like that. Like I said, this is not only my work, it's the work also of many of my colleagues in the research group Datums at the Botanical Garden, but also many of my students, not only in Berlin, but also in Mexico. I decided to call this presentation Integrative Taxonomy. And before I go on and talk to you about my project and our workflow, I would like to tell you why I call it Integrative Taxonomy. Taxonomy is the science of naming, describing, and organizing organisms. And this includes plants, animals, and all microorganisms in the world. Taxonomy is crucial because it's the way we name things. If we cannot name them, we cannot describe them or work with them. And it also helps us to understand how similar organisms or other ways different organisms relate to one another. With the global crisis of species extinction, the field of taxonomy has been under pressure to speed up the naming and describing species before they disappear. The field of integrative taxonomy was introduced in order to integrate other disciplines, but especially DNA sequences into the traditional taxonomy. And with the possibilities that molecular biology is giving us, the importance of integrative taxonomy is growing, not only because it's basic research, but also because it answers many socio-political questions. So far, we know about 2 million species that have been described, fossils and living ones. But it is believed that this is only the 10% of the things we will find. Our existence depends on this diversity. The air we breathe, the water, the food, the medicine, all of these are the work of living organisms. And in order to counteract the ongoing extinction of species, the organisms must be known. And we have to understand also the species boundaries and what function they fulfill in the ecosystems and how can we protect them. How many there are and how many we are losing as a result, that is the task for the taxonomy. But it is not only the global trend that we are losing species, also the number of expert taxonomists is also declining. My research focus is on the phylogeny, on taxonomy of datums. Any one of you knows what datums is? Datums are single-cell algae that live in houses made of glass. They are the only organisms in the world who has a cellular wall made of transparent opaline silica. They are everywhere where there is water you will find atoms. Rivers, lakes, in the sea, even in wet soils or in the trees, everything where is water. They are the most diverse group in the algae. We know around 20 described species, but it's expected to be more. You probably never saw a datum before, but I'm pretty sure you made already contact with them. Look at the picture on the right. And every time you try to go for a swimming in a lake or in a river, and you slept on a slimy stone, those were datums. Now let's imagine we take just a sample. We take one of these stones and brush it just take a sample or scratch it with a knife and take a couple drops of this brown water and let's bring it to the microscope. You will see something like, I don't have a pointer. Oh, back again, sorry. I don't know what is happening here. You will find what you see in the pictures on the right. But if we take them and put it alone, then you will see it in the, after, you're right, yeah. Every time we take a sample, we find around 50 different species of datums. Just in this couple of drops of waters, we will find something like that. But they are microscopic, small, so we need microscopes to see them. I don't know, where is this activated? They are pretty small. They are about 2 micrometers, and the largest ones are 500 micrometers, what means half millimeter. The largest ones are as wide, as big as a human hair. Now, let's bring it to the microscope. Sorry, something is active there, I don't know what. In the first picture, you will see, all of these are the same species. It's the same valve you are seeing there. But in the first picture, they are still alive. We need to kill them in order to see all the structures. The first 2 pictures are pictures of light microscope. And in the second picture, you already see the structures we use to describe them separate from one another. In the last picture, there is a picture of the electron microscope. And you see the difference. We see much more structures that it helps us to make the separation of them. The thing that makes atoms unique for other algae is, oh man, sorry, there is not a surprise anymore. Sorry, something is weird here. What makes it unique? Is there? No, I'm not pushing. I'm not pushing. You can't see me. I'm not pushing. Yeah, what makes atoms unique in the world of algae is this unique and distinctive cell wall made of silica. It's really a glass-like structure. And they build these beautiful ornamentations, and it's exactly all these structures that we are using to describe them. Every time I talk about atoms, I carry with me this cheese box. Normally it's smaller, but I broke the biggest one, the big one today. All the items are built like a box. You can see under the microscope, we can have the ventral view or can use the dorsal view, and we kill them. And when we kill them and take all the organic material away, they tend to open. So we have all these structures to look, but also the inside of the box. If you look at the picture of Bidulfi, this triangular one, then you are seeing there exactly both views. And they have different structures in one part of the valve, but they are also different from the inside. So all of this is what we use to make the descriptions and to separate from one another. Probably if I ask you to look for me, because I just put you one time. Yeah, you see? It's coming back, and it's not fair. That was my surprise. So they have a lot of applications. They are, for example, used as indicators of water quality. Since 2000, the Water Frame Directive used atoms as indicators of water quality as a standard tool. There are some million of different species, and they are, each one of them needs very specific place and physicochemical conditions to live. So if you find specific species or a constellation of different species together, you can describe or you can say something about the environment in them they lived. They use as well in the geology to monitor past events conditions as paleoclimatic reconstruction. But also in the industry, they are well known. When they die, the only thing you have is this diatomaceous earth, so the diatomite, which is the skeleton, and they are used in the toothpaste. For example, when you brush your teeth and you feel the toothpaste and try to bite it, what you feel there? Are exactly this diatomaceous glass inside. They are good abrasives. They are the base for that dynamite. Are also used as filters for beer and wine. Are good abrasives and in the insulation. And in the last years, they are using all these structures also in the bionic lightweight designs. And just raising to the occasion, they are also used in the forensic science to confirm or rule out the drawing of as cause of death. Germany is one of the countries with long tradition working with atoms. And we in the research group of atoms, we start cultivating the atoms like 15 years ago, but it was within the framework of the project German Barcode of Life that we start with common atoms of German waters, isolating them and cultivating for integrative taxonomy. In order to obtain enough material for molecular and morphological analysis, we need algal cultures. Right now, they are testing procedures when you extract DNA of only one of these small bulbs, but we establish cultures, and in the moment when we have enough material, then we extract the DNA. So far, we have produced a reference library with more than 4,000 clone cultures from Germany and other regions, including Mexico. And since many datum species were first described in Germany, because it has this long tradition working with datums, and it's the country with most investigation in datums, and in Berlin, the city with more studies, this reference library has international importance because it can be used to compare findings in other continents. This is the workflow, the way we work in our research group. No, that's okay. Every time we take a sample, we separate it in 3 different parts. The first part, we use it for traditional morphological identification. We put the samples under the light microscope or electron microscope. We identify everything we find there, and we make a taxa list for biodiversity. With the second part, we establish our clonal cultures. After we have enough material, we extract DNA, and we also observe these cultures under the microscope, and together with the morphological identification and the DNA sequences, we establish a reference library. With the third part, additionally, we take directly for the environment sample DNA and sequence all the not only datums but all the living organisms in this sample, and we make a list for future water quality assessments. Of course, all the identification success that we can have depends on the completeness of our reference libraries. With all the data we have collected, again, it's coming too quickly. We have collected under this integrative taxonomy that enable us to clarify long unresolved phylogenetic questions. This is just an example of a case, a really well-known case, of course, between people working with datums. It's the case of species of datums that was one of the most well-known species in Europe and in North America. And it has been for years called Gonphonema olivaceum in Central Europe, Gomphones olivaceae in North America. It was amply used in the water quality, but it was with this marriage of morphology or traditional morphology and DNA sequences that we answer all this question and characterize this species and give it the name now Gompphonella olivacea. But if you see in the picture also, not only the morphology shows you the differences, but also the DNA sequences help us here. What I'm showing you here is a map, or not. It's a map of the hotspots of biodiversity in the world. And Mexico belongs to them. Mexico is known as a center of high biodiversity. Part of this territory has been identified as hotspot, a center of great wealth and highly ecological fragility, with exceptional concentration of endemic species. Endemic species are those that you can only find there in that place. But before I continue, sorry, it's going too fast without me. Let me tell you just a story. I started working with datums 25 years ago in Mexico. At that time, the only books we have were in German, and they were about the flora from Germany. And 90% of all these books were written by Professor Lange Bertalot. I came to Germany 20 years ago to do my PhD, and my project was about the datums flora of the Lerma River Basin in Mexico. When I was about 6 months into my PhD, I got an invitation to give a talk about my project in the, at that time, German-speaking Datumologists Congress. So I was very excited to go there, but especially because I will have the opportunity to meet Professor Lange Bertalot, because I've been working just with his work. So I went there, I give a talk, and after my talk, a colleague came to me and introduced himself as Horst. He was really, really interested in my work in Mexico about my flora. He's a taxonomist, and we spent the next 3 days working with my flora. He improved a lot the work I was doing there and changed a bit the perspective that I had about the flora from Mexico. After the conference, on the way back home, I complained to my colleagues that I was disappointed because I didn't get to meet Professor Lange Bertalot because he wasn't there. They laughed at me and told me to spend the last 3 days working with him. So imagine my surprise. Later, I will be glad that it happens in that way, because I suppose our conversations will be totally different if I was totally nervous while talking with him. The thing is, during those days, he tried to convince me to change my topic. He told me I should probably not work with Mexico, but somewhere else, because Mexico has nothing new to offer in the field of atoms. Everything was reported till then was cosmopolitan. That means was everywhere. There was a low diversity, and probably I should change the topic, go somewhere else with more diversity, where I can improve my skills as taxonomist. And he truly believed that. And everybody at that time believed that. It took me years working with atoms to realize what was happening here. And the explanation to high cosmopolitanism is, as I told you, we were only working with the flora from Europe. Just imagine we were working under the microscope, finding our atoms, and we were happy to have books. We can just go and try to match the identifications we had. So every time we find something, we make force fitting. We describe it after these floras. So it's important that the new floras are developed in each one region, not only in every country, but regions. And the explanation to the low diversity is because we were mainly working with light microscope. And as you see in this picture, in the light microscope, you see characters you can work with. And if you have floras only with light microscope, you can compare light microscope with light microscope. But if you have electron microscope, you see even more characters. And then you can start separating the same group of genus from species to a different species. So with the integrative taxonomy, we have made several contributions and fundings for the Mexican flora. We observe this distinctiveness in the datum flora from central Mexico, because I work with central Mexico, with the Lerma Basin, and the students after me keep expanding the work in that region. We start creating the datums monographs for identification of that region. We start with the first reference library. We create the first reference library for Mexican datums, and it's the largest for tropical datums. We create the reference library with morphology, traditional taxonomy, and complemented with the molecular sequences. And we start observing this hidden diversity with the clonal cultures. And for Mexico, it's high endemisms from plant and animals known. But we are now finding that this is also true for datums. No, don't go. Don't go. Okay. I leave this last slide to the end because this is the take-home message that I would like you to remember when you go home today. Why should I care about atoms? Why should I know about atoms? Atoms turn energy from the sun into sugar. Similar than plants, they have light-absorbing structures, like the chlorophyll, that absorb the energy from the sun and transform it into chemical energy through photosynthesis. Of all the photosynthesis being done on Earth, around a quarter is done by atoms. Just put them apart at the same level, the all rainforests together. The atom produces 20 to 30% of the air we breathe. They are the secrets of the Earth's oxygen supply. Just imagine, just think a little bit about that. Breathe, and every third or fourth breath you take is because of this small algae underwater. The atoms feed the oceans, the lakes, and the rivers. They are the food of the entire, they feed the entire food chain, from zooplankton to water insects, to fish, to whales. And they are also just really nice to look at. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the talk about these interesting creatures. Can you answer three questions? First, how do they reproduce? Do they have sexes? Second, how they survive after drying water? And how many species did you describe?
So in order to answer about reproduction, I will use my box, my chicks box again. So when they reproduce, they separate the bulbs, and each of one of the bulbs creates a daughter cell, another half. And every time, imagine every time you get another half, when they again separate, they too have another daughter cell. So it is a point when every daughter cell is smaller, smaller, smaller. And if the environment is well enough, they start to have sexual reproduction. Means with spores. And then they create a bigger cell and start go back to the same size they were at the beginning. So that was how they live after they are dead.
They survive after drying water.
This is a really interesting question, and we really don't know that yet, because you find them, I mean, also when we take them into the culture, just imagine we take a cell and isolate it for the rest of the sample and put it alone. And we isolate it as much as necessary till we have only one cell. And then she stayed just like that for weeks probably, and then started to reproduce. Sometimes it looks like it's dead. Nothing is there, it's transparent, but then they are alive and start to reproducing. This is something we cannot explain still. Also because when it dries, it seems to be that they can stay long, but we don't know how long. Can they resist? In which species can resist? Because we have so many different species. There is more datums that plants or animals you can see with your own eyes. So we don't know any. No, we don't know all of them. So the ones we manage to get in cultures, for those we get a little more knowledge about how they live and how they resist. But they keep being alive. I don't know. And the last one?
How many species give you this?
Can you believe me? I don't know, it's funny. Can you believe me that I started yesterday looking for that because I thought anyone could ask me because I didn't know. I realized I described till now about 30 different species, 3 new species, and over 10, 11 are from Mexico.
You are so enthusiastic how you talk about your diatoms that I am beginning to love them also. So I just want to ask you, well, is there a relationship between diatoms or a kind of one species or different species of diatoms depending on the quality of the water? So this, and also, do you think that there are some, so then this is the first question. The second question would be, is there a relationship also of how many species of diatoms are in danger? Or are there some species of diatoms in danger, for example? I don't know, I mean, it's just...
Let me start go back a little with this information. Germany is, like I said, has the most tradition about diatoms, and we keep finding new species. We have in Germany the largest reference library or database for diatoms, and with years knowing these species and knowing the environment conditions we can find them that's the protocols we are following when we try to establish the water quality. That's what the water framework directive is doing in Germany and also Europe. They have a list of species, and they know, because they know each one of the rivers and lakes in Germany, for example. They know the flora, which flora is living there. So each of the described species have parameters about pH, about Leitfähigkeit, what's in German, or about and about all the conditions in the water. And they establish, for example, if they observing the valves, they are counting the species, and with this constellation of species, you can tell these species are good indicators of, I don't know, high pH or low Lichtigkeit, conductivity, it depends, or contaminants. They change every time the population, they change the population depending of the conditions. When the environment changes, the population change. And if you take samples every 3 months, you see this change. And it's, the indication is even more stable than when you take just physicochemical parameters.
So do you think that they could be also markers of quality of water? Then?
Yeah, of course. That's exactly what they are doing. They are markers. You have some species like this conphonema, and then you will say, this is an indicator of, and the list of nutrients or pollutants or physicochemical conditions. You have a list. What is this specific algae indicating? And it's of course a statistic and programs you are now running just to make the description. And of course you keep looking and evaluating the conditions. You can take decisions how to improve or how to change.
And the endangered species of diatoms?
We don't know. We don't know how many there are. We have. There is some of them in this red book, but they are not. We are not sure they are really endangered. The only thing we can say is they used to be in the spray 20 years ago, and they are gone now. But if they are really endangered, we don't know, because we still need to look at the flora in other places of the world. And I was talking about central Mexico, but we don't know anything about the rainforest from Mexico. It's just, we can talk about the things we know, but if they are in danger, I don't know, probably they are in Australia, still living very happy.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, congratulations. It's always really nice to see Mexicans that are really proud of Mexico and pushing a lot. And also as science engagers, we are really happy to see you using props in order to explain science. So congratulations about that, because we need to approach science
you
also.
Play with me this thing.
No, you are using really amazing science engagement activities. So congratulations.
Thank you very
I
much.
saw a couple of books over there. So where can we find more information about the work that you have been doing in order to replicate it in Mexico?
You are sitting probably too in the first rows, but if you look down, my presentation, it was there, hashtag Berlin, Botanical Garden Berlin.
Probably, yeah, because we can see it
but
from here.
Each of the slides is the top, bottom, at the top and the bottom.
Okay.
Botanical Garden Berlin, there is the research group Datums. There, we are so few, so little, few taxonomists working in this field. And like I said, there's more datums than plants or animals. But also, I mean, I can say, for example, there are like, I don't know if I can count with my hand the taxonomists I know in Europe, but 2 of them are Mexicans. So it's working with datums.
Thank you.
Well, I think it has been fascinating, each one of the presentations today. They were from different areas of science, but very interesting and fascinating. And I think one of the main things is that each one of the researchers that presented today, it make it from the heart, with a lot of passion. Something, I don't know, I think it's something from the Mexican, that we put the heart in every single thing that we do, and it has been very cameral and very nice evening. So thank you very much for all of you for coming, and we hope that next year in the next Mexican Science Day we will have you here with new presentations and with new topics, and also we will be delighted to invite you. Thank you very much.